Hi, good to
Hi.
see you. I'm trying.
I'm super excited today because we're going to go to a place that I really don't know a whole lot about. But before we get there, we've got a little bit of a time change. So thank you for being gracious with us. But we're going to knock this out a little early here. We have an incredible guest with us. Let me bring up your bio because I was like real impressed with your bio. So today we're going to go to great state of Michigan. My friend Matt's going to tell us all about why people are traveling there, why people are investing in there, the best places to go, when you need to go, and what you need to do and what you need to see in Michigan. So my broker Matt brings a wealth of experience from over a decade in real estate, having grown from a background in mortgage underwriting to a knowledgeable figure in short-term rentals. As leader of the STR Legend Mastermind, he has guided the sale of hundreds of rentals and supports a team of 70 agents. His collaboration with his wife, former doctor, has led to the creation of a successful design and co-hosting company. Operating both a real estate and a mortgage broker, my broker Matt focuses on making short-term rental financing accessible. He oversees a diverse range of 67 properties, including a boutique hotel, demonstrating his commitment to smart investment and thoughtful management. In the STR Legend Mastermind group, he shares insights on property acquisition and management, aiming to help others in the field. Dedicated to enhancing his portfolio and aiding the growth of his mentees, my broker Matt is passionate about providing practical, comprehensive real estate investment strategies, helping clients find their ideal properties. Holy moly, my friend! That's like impressive. Impressive.
Thank you.
Yeah. Why don't we start from the beginning? Because
Okay.
I read that and I'm like, wow, how'd you get into doing all this?
So, I'll try and speed you up because it's a
Yeah.
long story. I
Cliff notes. Cliff notes.
yeah, Cliff Notes. Cliff Notes. I was I was a bad story growing up. We had a lot of theft, a lot of bad things happen to our family, death. We had drive-bys on our house. It was not a good time in Detroit. And it was very weird because my dad is from California. So when I would go visit my dad, my mom lived here, single parent mom. I would visit my dad. He had built a business as a studio audio engineer. He had his own recording studio, and then he also built up his own. He was like one of the first guys ever to do private consult for like at-home PCs. So he knows more about like computers than pretty much anybody out there. He knows the history of everything. He's really sharp. But in doing that, he had a lot of celebrity clients, and I would meet a lot of like really unique celebrities. So I had these crazy polarities growing up. One day I'm eating, lobster and steak with like big name NBA people in the movies and music industry, and the next minute I'm here getting shot at. And I was like, what the hell? I literally started to think that geographically, like wherever you live determined how happy you could be. So I was like,
Yeah.
apparently I need to move to California because I'm freaking miserable here. And that's just kind of what it was. So fast forward, 20 something years later, we're in college, kind of wrapping up. College is not going great. And I get a job at Quicken Loans, and I, start up there. And I sit next to this lady, and she's just like being super nice to me, taking me under her wing. Her name's Vanessa. She said, hey, like, what'd you get hired as? I said, I'm a junior underwriter. And she said, if you have questions, let me know. I'm a senior underwriter. And over the next couple of months, we became so close. She became so helpful. She said, you know what? I think you're actually smart enough to be a senior underwriter. And I was like, well, what's the benefit? And she's like, well, what are you making right now? And I was like 35 with bonuses. I might be able to hit 39. And she was like, I make well over 100,000. Are you interested? I was like,
Done. Done.
I was like, absolutely. And of course I said, well, like, I'm so used to being disappointed and things taken away from me at this point that I'm just like,
Yeah.
oh, I know I'm going to even be successful with this. She was like, you are smart enough. I believe in you, and I'm going to have your back. And I was like, nobody's ever talked to me like that in my life. And I was like, I don't know why, but I'm going to trust this lady. And so I trust her. In 6 months later, I'm making six figures. And before I
Yeah.
know it, I start making $250,000 a year. I'm running the appraisal team for all like appraisals across the nation. I'm learning so much about comparables and data and how to like assess risk, but validate it even when there's high risk factors. And how do you sell that debt? So I got really good at understanding like how do you take something that could be considered high risk by some people and making it low risk? How do you
Yeah.
hedge it, right? So
Yeah.
that became a part of my like mental like norm. Like I just started to figure out how to do that. And now, and after a while, I was so bored making making $250,000 a year, 70 hours a week at that job. I was like, oh my God, are these the golden handcuffs I heard about?
Mhm.
And I'm walking back depressed. I'm like, why am I depressed? Anybody would kill to be in my position. And I said, hey, you know what? I'm going to make a change. I've been seeing all these people with rentals on their tax returns. I might as well do this. I probably can figure this out, right? I'm like, these guys ain't too sharp. I'm half-witted. I could probably figure this out. So I said, all right, I'm gonna try this out. And my first one, I was scared to death. I bought a rental property and I was like, oh my God, I didn't screw this up. I said, maybe I'll save up a little bit of money and I'll buy a second one. Hopefully I don't screw that up either. I approached it apprehensively, and what happens? I didn't screw it up. I said, I do it a third time, I don't think I'll be scared anymore.
Yeah.
Do it, boom. And then before I knew it, I was at 10, 20, 30, 40, and now 51.
Yeah.
And it's just been a blur. So
That's the hardest thing for people to get over is that fear. You know, it's so funny is yesterday I had like a really shitty day, to be honest with you. My whole mindset yesterday was just like, it's really good. And then all of a sudden, so I don't know what happened, but everybody was getting on my nerves. And I was like, I need to take a nap because obviously it's me. If I get to the point where I look around and I'm like, did you just hear what's coming out of your mouth? And I get that feeling twice. I'm like, oh, okay. I need to take a break. So I took a nap and I woke up worse. And I was like, what is going on with me? And it was that feeling of like, I felt like, God, you do real well in life, but like, why don't I have enough more to show for it? And then I was looking at a property to buy in Kentucky earlier, and that's probably what spurred this thing of like, I'm getting a little scared. Like, am I going to do it? Why don't I have more on the balance sheet than the gross profit? And like, what the hell happened last year? Like, what's going on with the P&L? And then finally I'm like, fuck it. I'll make an offer. Like, that's all I can, like, if I need to change something, I can sit here and like wallow in what I don't have, or I can make an offer. Like, what are your choices here? And so made an offer, actually got accepted today. But I was like thinking to myself, like, that like shift of like, the more you do it, the more like the less scared you become over time, and then also being able to mitigate the risk on stuff. It's like you get real good in your head on being able to do that. So let's talk Michigan.
By the way. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't know if it's fully set in yet because I like just not willy-nilly. Like I did the numbers 50 which ways from Sunday, and I'm like, okay, like even if it didn't, like I could afford the whole thing regardless. And so, but I just don't know if it's fully set in that we're buying a house. So, well, I mean, I guess we're buying a house.
Is this your first one?
No, we own it, and then we own here as well.
Okay.
Yeah. But I was like, I'm solid. It's fine. That's kind of how I go through my whole life. So let's talk about Michigan. So you start doing real estate in Michigan, I'm guessing.
That's correct.
And are you investing in Detroit?
Metro Detroit, yeah.
Okay. Share with me.
Hold the hand. We can do this.
I'll be
Metro
there.
Detroit's pretty much over here. Oh, they're giving me a little hand icon too. Metro Detroit's pretty much over here. We've got the bulk of our properties are here. We have some properties over here on the west side going all the way up to Traverse City. We have one that kind of became famous that's in Cadillac. We call it Orange Cadillac. If you guys are familiar with the Carwells, Sarah, that partner, we partnered on that property, made a beautiful house. It's grossing $177,000 now.
Wow.
A lot of people said, hey, that house, there's no data. Why would you buy that? It's a stupid call. And I said, listen, you guys, so many people get caught up in the data. They go, hey, I can't prove it in the data. I'm not buying it. I'm like, that might be your risk tolerance. But there's some areas of the country, there's some secondary and tertiary markets that you could probably invest in, but you're making data be your reason why you won't move ahead. And there's a way to actually reconfigure how you're looking at the data and look at the negative space of data is what I kind of refer to it as.
Huh?
What hasn't been done there, and how can you reverse engineer what has been done to kind of create an idea of what that range is of what could be done. Um,
Mm-hmm.
like if you're in Orlando, if you're in Arizona, you might know what the ceiling is. What is the ceiling? The ceiling is the maximum amount of income you could probably make, no matter how good the property is. In the Midwest, you don't have a ceiling. There hasn't been enough quality operators, designs, and managers running their properties over here. So if anything, I'm the one that's going to be creating the ceiling. And I kind of love those markets. Like, I won't really invest in a market where the ceiling already exists. I don't want to go and compete with the top dogs that are already fighting tooth and nail to keep what they have. I'd rather be in like a secondary market or a tertiary market. I'd rather take that risk. And I also have a lot less to expend on the acquisition. Like, I don't necessarily have to spend $1 million to get a beautiful house. I can
Yeah.
spend $500,000 to get a great house that will still clear like maybe 120 grand. And it's like, at that point, why wouldn't you?
Yeah, yeah. I love this space because what I've learned is no matter who you talk to, there are so many different paths to success. There are
Oh, yeah.
people being successful in already established markets, and there's people like you that's like, I'm not going to go that way. Instead, I'm going to do this. And I love that. So can you share with me why people are going to Metro Detroit?
They love the Lions. That's
They love the Lions. Yeah.
oh, there's some truth to that. I have one guy, he actually bought season pass tickets to the Lions, and he flies in for every game from out of state, stays at our same house, flies right back out because it's right on the way from the airport to the stadium.
Mm-hmm.
It's just one-off funny story. Just I think until this year, I thought he was sick in the head. I was
Yeah.
like, that is a level of dedication I respect, but also think is a little messed up. but
They got
but
real
now
talk.
I'm like, after this year, I was like, you know what, Lions crushed it this year. So glad to see somebody who was such a hardcore advocate, and good for him. So why do people
Gonna
come
like
to?
remarket all your properties in the area.
I know, right? I
There's gonna
know
be lion
exactly.
shit everywhere.
I know, I know. For the most part, I think Michigan summers are really hard to compete with. The beauty, the affordability, to get the properties on the lakes that we've seen, and for just a fraction of the price that you'd see in a lot of other waterfront, oceanfront, it's hard to compete with. In COVID times, we had a whole lot of Silicon Valley buyers coming up this way. They said, "Screw it! If I'm gonna be stuck like in my house, I'm gonna go get a house back in Michigan on a beautiful lake." And they were buying, homes that are probably doubled in value for like 750, and they got like 4,000, 5,000 square foot estates, beautiful frontage, pool, hot tub, whatever, and they're living their best life now, right? So there's ways that you can do that, and honestly, like, it might seem that Michigan doesn't have a whole lot going in the winter, but the truth is, when you're in more metro dense areas, there's so many people that are still coming for work, hospitals, schools, graduations. Like, if you have college, good colleges, good high schools, good hospitals, like, we've been able to stay busy where people would not even expect. And there's one city, it's actually my hometown. When we moved out of our last house, we converted it. We said, let's just try something crazy. Let's do a Marvel theme. People are like, "You're stupid. That'll never work. Nobody goes to Michigan for Marvel." I'm like, it's not the point. I
Mm-hmm.
don't, but there are Marvel fans everywhere. There are Disney fans everywhere. And some
Yeah.
people can't afford to go to Orlando every year. So I was like, let me try it. Let me just try it. I took a gamble, right? I was like, okay, what's my worst loss? Like, maybe I'll try it for 2 months. So that's 2 months of holding costs plus my expenditure to get it set up and designed nicely. And I said, you know what? We had to make a decision. Do we want to go super far, kind of far, or just like a little bit? So we said, let's go kind of far. Let's go kind of far. And if it goes well, we'll upgrade. So we went kind of far. Our home would probably not do great in Orlando. It's not Orlando grade. And some people have made negative comments about it. That's fine, whatever. But like, I didn't want to overextend on something that was very niche.
Yeah.
But now that I've proven it, I'm doubling down. It will be nearly Orlando grade with my upgrade. But what happened was we took our house that we had bought for $275,000, and I think we have a 4% rate on it. And now it's making about $120K a year.
No.
Yep. So it's like, am I glad I took that risk? Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Even if it
What's
made
the
half
all-in
of that, it would
payment
have
on
paid for
that?
itself. I'm
What's
sorry.
your all-in payment on a purchase at 275 and 4? 1,500
I think our payment was like 1,800 or something. It wasn't bad at all.
$1,800?
Yeah, it wasn't
And
bad.
you're you're grossing 120.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Jesus. That's
Yeah.
amazing. That's amazing. I mean, I know a lot of, because I live in California, right? And so we're looking at
Mhm.
prices and you're just like, how do you do it here? And that anxiety and that stress, especially if you're probably more of a newer investor or, yeah, I mean, even if you're not a newer investor, I mean, when you're just looking on your return on investment, when you're like, I could pick something up for say 250, but I can gross $100,000 on it, it's way better than having to pick up something for 2 and 3 times that and grossing the same amount. So I love that. All right, so we talked about why people are going there. Amazing summers. You have the lakes right there. Is there any like big events throughout the year that somebody might want to target in Michigan or?
Um, so I haven't said this to a lot of people, but I will say this. So on the Michigan map, pretend a half moon exists, pretty much like this, kind of like hugging that lower end through that coast.
Mhm.
Those are kind of the hot areas. There are a couple spots in the middle on the left side that like really go well. Alpena can do pretty well. Mears has Lake Michigan and also the sand dunes. Over here is Hale. Hale's done pretty well for one of my partner friends. Cadillac's about here. You could do so many things in terms of events. If you want to be event and have low seasonality, you want to probably be in the Metro dense areas. You probably want to stick to Metro Detroit. I wish we could do Metro Grand Rapids. I love Grand Rapids, big beautiful metro. Problem is they're still kind of anti-STR, but some of the outskirt cities are not. So that would be a secondary, tertiary market that I would still explore. We are actually doing our first lakefront property just outside of Grand. Actually, no, it'll be our second. I'm sorry, I forgot. We have Gun Lake and we have Sand Lake now. So, and by the way, like this is another thing we do. So, quick rundown on me, Paige. So we are still looking to buy properties. Our goal is to add 100,000 net income to our portfolio this year, which some people go, that's crazy, but like I know it's possible. I know how to do it. I'm teaching it. And so in my mastermind, I try to teach people how do you like average adding one $2,500 net property per quarter. If you can do that, you can get there pretty quickly, right? Some properties are going to make 5,000, and then you only need 2 in a year, right? And that's not too bad. We have one of our student clients. They are buying an 850, but it's got an indoor pool. It's on the biggest inland lake in Michigan, and it's 6,500 square feet. So it's going to be just totally badass. People are going to be going nuts for it. We're hoping that it hits close to 230. And if it hits 230 on an 850, they'll be very, very satisfied. 150, 175 should be break even, depending on how things go. But I do want to warn everybody when it comes to seasonality. The summer months for lakefront tend to be 50% of your income. Your whole annual income can be earned in those 3 months of summer, which means the remaining 50% is over 9 months. So you need to make sure you have some reserves to toggle up and down, especially once you get to winter. Now, here's the oddity. Michigan people figure out how to have fun in the winter. So you could be still close to snowing and skiing stuff. If you're on a lake, there's something they call hash bash. I think everybody's heard of the hash bash, and people get lit on that lake. They go out there, they're ice skiing, like they're just having a good old time, getting lit, cooking.
What is hash bash?
Hash bash can be a recreational use, enjoyable factor for many people that are connoisseurs of said item, which is legal here now.
Oh, okay. Oh, got it. I got it. I was like, what?
Yeah.
I'm like trying to figure out what you mean. Got it. Okay.
Yeah. So
I mean, maybe there's a whole market I mean, if you want to theme something out, right?
Oh, yeah.
There's a whole market for that.
My buddy Patrick, he's in Joshua Tree, and he did like a whole mushroom crazy like vibe, and people get crazy over there. So hey, whatever. But over here, we've tried a couple themes. We've done a music house where it's all genres of music and like cool things. We did a cinema house, kind of all movie-esque. We had a movie theater in the basement. And you can do so many things. I really emphasize go deep with your theme and your design and your amenities. I think amenity stacking and larger homes will definitely create that longevity in your portfolio. And that's what I really emphasize people do. On average, I say good homes will go between 350 and 700 here. 250 is really hard to hit now. Is what it is. But 350, you stand a shot at a decent home.
Yeah. All right. So Ryan asked, are there any land development opportunities near the dunes?
There really are, man. What a great question. I love that. I have a friend, David Rosenbeck. He's actually doing an M frame development in Arizona right now with his partner Jonathan. But anyway, they are looking to do something in Michigan soon. I've been looking for some land for him, 10 plus acres, either like next to some type of park and or waterfront, right? And so we found some things near some dunes and or on lakefront, like sometimes like 5 to 10 acres. You can do a lot with even 5 acres. Like a lot of
Yeah.
people like undersell. Sometimes the more acreage, you have that much more to develop to get the utilities to where you need them to
Yeah.
be. So like bigger is not always better. I promise you that. And beyond that, I'd say I can think of a few places that would be excellent for dune focused people. And kind of like over here that near Mears. There's some Sleeping Bear sand dunes up here, Silver Lake sand dunes. There's definitely some great options. And you don't have to break the bank when it comes to the land. I mean, you could be at 150 to a million, but like I'd say on average, you're probably right around, 350 for like a really nice 5 to 10 acre lot, but you could
Hmm.
be very, very happy. And if you know about Lake Charlevoix, if you know the owner of Quicken, he's got a property on Lake Charlevoix, which is one of the most baller lakes you can be on, really. But there's like a 10 acre option on that lake, and I have been like just pining to go buy that. And I think it was only 350. So
Oh, there
yeah,
you go. There you
yeah,
go, Ryan. So Ryan, hook up with Matt. I think you guys are probably friends already. Ryan Duffy doing stuff over in
that's
Branson.
that sounds very familiar.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so you guys are probably already connected on Facebook. Hey Eric, thanks for jumping on. So let's also talk. I would be real remiss if we didn't get into boutique hotel. So, because I know that's like real popular right now in the STR world, is people looking to branch out. Um, let's talk first. Why do you think that is? People wanting to branch out into boutique hotel, and then you can tell me your experience, where you guys invested, what you did, how it's going, all of that.
Well, I think it really came down to regulations. And honestly, I think it's kind of the level two shiny object. I have so many stories you could share on this, but I will say this. Boutique hotels are definitely something I'm interested in for scale. And just to kind of like omit the need to worry about like any type of regulations.
Yeah.
But please know, like when you get into boutique hotels, it's commercial level, it's a commercial level asset. You need commercial financing, which usually requires a much steeper down payment. The acquisition price is usually higher. A lot of people don't have that. There's a few that are actually pretty interesting in Michigan right now, right around a million. And I think that like with the right like intent, we could go develop those and make them look really good. There's actually one for 800 that I'm like, damn, should I buy that? But it does need a lot of extra capital to do that. But anyway, I think boutique hotels can do really well. There's some really influential influencers out there that are talking about it and they're offering coaching and things like that. But I think aside from kind of the attraction of it, and the regulation like cover play, I think it goes back to something that I've seen over the last 10 years with all investors. Almost every investor I know, as they grow and scale, they go, I want to do commercial. I want to do multifamily long term. I want to do a boutique hotel. I wanted to do boutique hotel. I did one in California on Desert Hot Springs. And all of that being said, you know what I found out? Almost all of them end up going back to single family or 1 to 4 units. And why? Because a lot of people just find that they've developed a comfort in that asset and they know how to rip through them. Once you figure out your sauce, it's probably easier to scale and just say, hey, you know what? I'm just going to hire out my property management, hire out my bookkeeping. So I don't have to worry about this or paying my taxes, insurance, mortgage payments. I don't want to think about it anymore. My utilities, if it's an STR. So I think a lot of people kind of have adapted and changed directions. You might think you want that, but once you're playing against the big boys who have money, who have a history of taking down deals, who have better financing, it's tough to do battle with them. Can you? Absolutely. But you need to go in there aggressive. If you're working with an agent, as you and I both know, you can't be like dipping your toe in. You got to jump. You got to
Mhm.
jump with a level of seriousness. Otherwise, you're kind of wasting everybody's time, including your own. And nobody's out here to really waste their own time. Sometimes you don't know you're going to waste your time, but you are.
Yeah, it's a different model, right? Like a lot of
Absolutely.
people think like, oh, well, for instance, when people buy like short-term rentals, and I'm like, we need to talk about the fact that you are now in hospitality. You may not know this when you buy in short-term rental, but you are
Oh,
now in hospitality. You're a real estate investor, but you're really in hospitality, but you're securing it with a real estate investment. So you need to understand that it's not super passive. And the same thing, I think, when you go from single family and then you're like, I'm gonna do boutique hotel, that's a little bit different of a business model. Are you guys doing like front desk boutique hotel? Or are you doing like short-term rent? You have a lock.
good question. We got rid of our front desk person. That was a tough conversation
Yeah.
in general. We had one partner that really didn't want to do that. And we've learned a lot. Like even refinancing this hotel has been a pain
Really
because
hard right
interest
now.
rates went up.
Yeah.
A couple of the same place that promised us to go back to them for the refi since we bought it with them, they would not perform at the refi. And I was like, well, this is getting scary considering we had a very, timed loan here. We know it
Yeah.
was due back. It's effectively a balloon, right? I think it was a 1-year balloon. So we're like, oh my God, this is getting scary. So
Yeah.
there are a whole new level of issues. And if you don't have that money back in your reserves, you can really get hurt. You can,
Yeah.
I am so thankful that we are somehow standing right now, but the lessons I learned on that hotel have prepared me enough to go, okay, I'm ready to take this action again.
Mhm.
And I'm so glad it's making a little bit of money, nothing to really take from it. We have to still build the reserves back up, but it overall, I paid for a learning lesson with my first boutique hotel. And, a lot of people won't even tell. You and I both know, like once you're in this industry long enough and you hear all these influencers, they don't want to talk about the good. Let's talk about the real stuff, right? Like you can get your butt kicked on some of these deals. And I
Yeah.
have a good history with single family and up to 4 unit. And I'll tell you the good, bad, and ugly. But the boutique hotel was one of the most scary moments when the refi wouldn't go through. And I about like choked because I was in the middle of 4 other flips and 2 other Airbnbs I was launching. I was like, this is too much money to be out right now. I am not
Yeah.
comfortable. I need to settle
Yeah.
down.
You're like, how many years did that take off my life? Because the
So
level of
true.
stress, right? I did have a couple of questions. And I will say this, you guys, like you guys could read all the books and do all the coaching and all that kind of stuff. You also need to take some action because you're never going to really learn this until you do it. It's something about going from your head to your heart. You have to learn those lessons. That's where you like it's in the action where that all comes together, and nobody can save you from like all the lessons. That's why we all, definitely get somebody that knows what they're doing because you can lose your butt doing this. It is not fun. That's why you need a really great coach or somebody that like a professional like Matt, either on his coaching or his real estate or whatever, to guide you. But you also have to like we can't save you from all the lessons. So you'd also have to learn your own lessons. Monique in the trenches. Yep. And I will also tell you guys this. The best person to buy from is somebody actively doing this, right? Like I'm going to just one, he's going to have a level of empathy that nobody else will have for you. Because I know with myself, because I'm actively looking at properties and actively putting offers out, I'm able to guide my clients a whole lot better than somebody who is not. And I would honestly never buy an investment property with somebody who has not been an investor ever. So that is my advice. So there. Let's see, what else do we need to talk about? What else you
I
got
got a
going
quick ad for that because I've seen what happens when they don't. And even there's some there's some agents out there that pose as investors, don't have that much experience, and they don't really set the tone. They don't talk about seasonality. They don't talk about like keep reserves on deck, understand your holding costs. So while you're doing the setup, if it's gonna be 4 months versus 2 months, and you have $2,500 in holding costs, that's another $5,000. If you didn't have that, and that's all. Not only is that's the cost for the hold, that's also 2 months less of income that you actually had a chance to earn, right? So it's kind of gets exponential and gets really painful. So it's like you want to talk these things out, and I always recommend to people, like, there's a level of vulnerability you have to have as an investor. Don't come in acting like you know anything. Like ask the questions, and if you're with the right group, the right agent, I'm sure like that, like that's when if they know how to address it because they've been there, they're going to give you advice that should sink in. And if it's not your communication style, maybe it's not the right agent for you, right? So,
Yeah.
but either way, like if you guys, I'll say this, if you guys have certain fears or worries or doubts, like put them in the chat and I'll just address them, because that's kind of like, that's the biggest thing. Like I came from so little. I didn't think things could be possible for me. And now, like, it's made it hard to relate to family, friends, and it's really changed my situation. And so I've had people, call me like a trust fund baby, and it's hilarious to me because if you looked at a trust fund baby versus what Matt was dealing with at 9, it's
Yeah.
not even remotely comparable. Like
Yeah.
you cannot compare that. So I have this superhero syndrome where like when I see people that are trying to get ahead and they're serious about it, I want to help them. Like I really want to see them do well. And even just getting to know you, Paige, I've been starting ever since we connected. I've been starting to watch your stories. I love your vulnerability and your honesty, and I can just see that coming through. And that's something that kind of drew me to want to do this with you too. So
Oh,
thank you for
good. I'm glad. I'm glad. That is definitely one thing that reigns supreme with me. You can get the good and the bad.
that. Totally.
Because a lot of times, especially on social media, we just show the highlight reel. Look at everything I did, right? And that's supposed to impress you and get you to follow me and get you want to work with me. And
Yeah.
yes, that's part of it, but I would be doing you a huge disservice if I didn't talk about the hard times, because especially when you're new, like that's more of what your experience is going to be like. Is going to be like the minute you put your offer out, and I'm sure Matt can agree with this, that we don't really do real estate or mortgage. That's like not really our job. That's like one of the mechanics. We're really like coaches and like therapists, because the minute you put your offer out, what goes crazy is like your mind's like, oh shit. Now I'm going to feed you up all the negative thoughts that you've ever had. Every insecurity you've ever thought about yourself is going to come up. You're going to be like, I'm not ready to do this. What am I thinking? Blah, blah, blah. My cousin, my uncle, my blah, blah, blah said this isn't a good deal. And so we're there to kind of help you do that. And so I like to share with people like this is the process. And even still, I've been doing this business my whole freaking life. And even still, I have those days. I had that day yesterday. So it happens to all of us. Why don't we talk a little bit about, because you also help people learn to do this, and having a coach to help you learn to do this is very, very, very important. I don't know. When people ask me, they're like, how do you get into like real estate and mortgage? And I'm like, I don't even know what to tell you because I've been doing this so long. Like, I don't even know how you learn this. Like,
Oh my God. It's such a funny question. When it comes to like what we do with the coaching and why we coach, I've kind of hit on the why a little bit. Like I want people to have a good shot. I am very close to calling out some negative, bad apples in the coaching space. Very close, because their students come to me next and they go, can you teach me something? And I go, probably. Let's have a call. We have a call, and I've had this response 20% of the phone calls. I learned more in a 1-hour free call with you than I did in 6 months with this guy. And I'm like, that's disappointing. But there's like your experience level as an agent, as a broker on both sides, real estate and mortgage, right? Your experience there with multi-transactions is pretty high. The only difference is, have you run short-term rentals and have you run enough where you feel very confident, right? So on the front end, when it comes to answering and addressing questions that some folks might be really struggling with, how do I find the right property? How do I negotiate? How do I go through the due diligence? How do I figure out my contractors? When do I start working on my design? Like literally all of that has an answer. I actually have a list like up right now, as a matter of fact, that kind of goes through every step and every point when you're on the acquisition journey, and when your design team should be stepping in, when your management team should be stepping in. If you don't have those two, how you should be stepping in and what point you need to start acting on the mood board, the orders, and all of that, right? Happy to share that with you. Like,
yeah. I'm probably gonna jank that just so you know. I mean, I'll credit you, but
well, only for you, Paige. Only for you.
I'll credit you. I'll like put this little blurb at the bottom that says if you want to buy in Michigan or you need somebody to coach you on STR. But I'm probably gonna use it for my my mortgage clients that want to do short-term rental. Maybe lead magnet them. I'm gonna lead magnet them with
there you go.
with your info.
For sure. For sure. No, it's tough. And a lot of people feel like they're going to get lost at the next step, or what do I do next is the common fear.
Yeah.
And our job is go, you don't have to worry. This is the next 3 steps. You don't have to worry. This is your next 3 steps. And like when you come to me like, what do I do? I go, this path, go walk. This path, go walk. Like,
Yeah.
when you can, like, like, okay, it's time for you to order your appraisal. Here's your appraisal link to pay. Like, or like as an agent, you go, hey, it's time to order your inspection. Of course, that would come before the appraisal. You go, hey, here's a couple I would recommend. You're not obligated to use any of them, but if you want to, here's 3 numbers, have at it, right? It's like just giving them a little direction so it's not like this infinite like world of confusion, so they don't feel like stuck. They don't want to feel stuck, paralyzed, worried, or like they're going to screw something up. So you prevent that by offering actual advice or clear direction, and you can do that. And there's a difference between advice and an actionable step. And sometimes you have to make that call. But either way, as long as you're providing sound reasoning, whether it's an action step or an advice, I think you can do very well with people and help them.
Let me ask you a couple questions. God, we're doing this. We'll get off pretty soon, but I got a couple questions.
Sure.
What part and parcel? What was your biggest mistake that you've made today in short-term rental? What's the biggest mistake you see new people make? Might be the same answer. I don't know.
Biggest mistake I see people make is buying it's twofold. Buying the wrong property because either A, they didn't do their due diligence, or their agent was a schmuck and just kind of said, no, it's gonna make money. Totally. If I have a client that buys something that I don't necessarily stand behind, I go, hey, for the record, I'm not too sure about this one. I let them know. I'm very, very clear. Sometimes I'm like, hey, I think you have a really good chance of ending in this range. Or I'm like, dude, if you don't buy it, I'm buying it. And that is a real thing that happens, right? So I tell them kind of like a confidence level and an actionable thing where I say, hey, I don't want to attach my name to this because I don't have that confidence. Yeah. But if you see something I don't, that's your risk you're taking. I'm very clear about that. But I also provide properties where I'm like, I'm very clear. I think this one's going to do really well and I would buy it. And literally I've done that too. And there you go. You actually bought it? I'm offended. I'm like, I gave you the shot. Like, it was a good deal. Like somebody needed to buy it. So anyway, so that's first thing is just acquiring the right property. Did they have the right idea? The second, probably most common issue is they have an idea, like how I would design or run a property isn't how they will do it. And I go, hey, do X, Y, and Z. Go this theme or this vibe, this quality, manage it, make sure your cleaners are on point. If you're not hitting 4.8 average with your reviews, you're doing something wrong. You need to go keep working on it till you're above 4.8, period. And then I see what happens. They go design it. They put 12 by 12 pictures on the wall in a 30 by 40 room. And they think that that's going to like look good. No, it looks stinky. I call it the college dorm room setup. And I go, it looks so
like much of that. I'm like, I live in San Diego and I'm like, I'm not staying at any of these places. Like, give me an experience. It's not going to take that much, but like, I want to feel good in the space.
100, like pro tip, like go look at where you're investing. Go look at Airbnb, look at the links, look at the top 5 listings that are all doing really well, 4.8 plus, see what they all have in common. Are they all beautiful pictures, like spaces you just want to hang at? Do they convey that? They pull that feeling out of you? And if they do, great, but you better duplicate it. And if you don't, sorry, you screwed up and it's on you. It is on you. So, and that's what we're really big about. And as a matter of fact, it's part of the reason why we opened our own design company and our own furnishing company, as well as the management company. So within our coaching, if people are like, I don't know how to design it, I don't know how to manage it, I don't know how to furnish it, we're the training wheels. So like if we can't teach it to you and you go, screw it, like take it over for me before I hurt myself, then we'll do it. So we're the training wheels company in a way.
That's great.
Kind of interesting.
It's like rooms to go for STR. I will say this, because we have a short-term in Georgia over on Lake Lanier, and I have a girlfriend. Is
that the haunted one?
It's not haunted. I mean, it might be, I don't know. It is on Lake Lanier, so, anything over there is can be haunted, I guess.
Do you know about the haunted lake in Georgia?
Yeah, that's Lake Lanier. They flooded
It
us.
is? Oh
Yeah,
boy. Okay.
yeah. So we're up on the Chattahoochee River as it comes into the lake.
Mhm.
But yeah, that they
Oh, you're on the
basically,
river. You're safe. You're
oh,
safe.
yeah, I'm safe on the river, right? It's basically it was a city and they flooded
Uh-huh.
it. So yeah, supposedly it's haunted. But that's it. But they filmed like Ozark
Hmm.
down in on Lake Lanier and in Gainesville. And
Oh,
we have family
okay.
there, and so just it's so interesting. We weren't planning on buying where we bought. I was just
Mhm.
thinking I wanted something close to my in-laws so we could go there for the summer and the kids can like run back and forth. And then another lakefront property came up a little bit further away. But what I was getting at is that so my girlfriend is a really great friend of mine. She's like one of my best friends. She has been doing Airbnb for a bazillion years. She was like the second listing in LA when they launched. Her competition at that time was a hammock. Like
Mhm.
you could do that was like
That's
Airbnb was more
hilarious.
like couch surf type, like come live with me type experience. So it was very long ago when they first launched. So she has a ton of experience. So she manages mine. And I will tell you, because mine is out of state and it's not really a business for me, it's more I just wanted to pay the payment so that I can get free real estate because I know the power in free real estate. So she manages it. We don't provide really anything. Like, I mean, you get like kind of toiletries to get you started, but there's no shampoo, conditioner, there's no welcome basket, there's none of that. But she is like the best. She's so in communication with the guests all the time, like checking in. Hey, want to make sure you got there. Want to make sure everything looks good. If you need anything, you let me know. Like her hosting ability overcomes any deficiency in my hosting in the
That's
property,
funny. Yeah.
She's like, there's something to be said for like being really hospitable. She's amazing at that. Um, so, some people,
I've seen that a few times actually. One of my buddies, he bought one on uh in Lexington here. Yeah, Lexington's here. And there's nothing really special about the design and layout. The property's beautiful. It's lakefront. It's a huge lake, beautiful in general, clean. The house is really nice, but the design's kind of forgettable. But without fail, when you check in, he calls and he goes, "Hey, this is Corey. I really want you to have an exceptional time. If there's anything I can do for you, this is my direct cell phone. You will not get a VA. This is me. This is my home. I love my home, and I want you to have a great experience with your family." When you say something like, even if I wasn't impressed, I'm like, I love this guy. Like, I'm like, 5 stars. I haven't slept.
yeah,
I don't even know if the pillows suck, but I'm gonna make some exceptions for these garbage pillows I'm probably sleeping on, and that's it.
yeah, because you're like, I love Corey. Yeah, yeah, that's
Yeah.
like every review we get. It's just like raves about the hosting, and we don't, I mean, I don't know. It's during the winter we get like random people coming in, they're going in for a surgery or,
Uh-huh.
one of them, like her, came in town because her daughter was having a baby or whatever. And like during those times, I try to like send flowers or whatever. If there's something that I can do to make it special, I can on a one-off, but it's not a consistent practice.
Yeah.
I'm like, look, I would love to do welcome baskets, but I'm also like, I'm not local and I guess I could outsource it, but you have to sometimes look at return on investment. This is also when I'm like, oh, you know what I want
And
to do?
return on time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
return on time as well. Like when I'm like, oh, could we put a massive deck out here? We could. I'm like, or I could buy another house. Same, like sometimes the same investment, right? I'm like, it's gonna cost me $30,000 to do a big old massive deck and cost me another 10,000, get a new dock, like, or I could buy a new house.
It, so one of my student members called me this morning and goes, "Hey, that property I told you I'm under contract on. I want to double check my logic here. Run me through this. I'm doing a 1031 exchange, selling this property I don't want anyway. I'm worried it's only gonna do 40 grand and it's like a $275,000 house." I was like, I don't love it. I don't love it, but is there an appreciation play? Because it's in a really great, like, since it's Asheville.
Okay. Yeah.
And I was like, the appreciation play may be worth it alone to offset the lack of income. And there's another like reason where he might want it just for primary, like boot camp. Like he's got a second lot that comes with it for his
Mhm.
primary that he's been traveling the world in. So I was like, okay, well, let's look at it, let's analyze that. And he goes, after going over it a little bit deeper, he goes, "Do you think this is smart or dumb. I was like, well, you can make it smart because there's a primary component to it where you're using it for your personal use, and that's invaluable. I don't know how you rate that is on you. I can't comment on that. But as an investment, if you're trying to beat your 1031, you have to make a decision this week, is what you're telling me.
Yeah.
So no matter what, you're going to have to make a call, and you might need to just stick it out with this one. But I do have 2 other properties that might foot the bill. This one, there's one I can get him that's like 310, and I think it's on pace to do 80,000 this year. And I was like, if we can get you, I know the agent. I was like, if we switch to that this week, I already know it's going to pass inspection. We can do a shortened inspection and shoot that through. He goes, A, send me that. B, I might want to make that move by tomorrow. So I sent him that as an option. And then second, he was like, he's got this other property in Asheville. He's going to be building out. It's off of a really steep hill. So he's building out a basement to add a second unit, second level. And he was like, I was worried, like, do you think I'll be able to burr this? And I go, well, have you checked comps? If it's going to add $100,000 of value and it's going to cost you less than 75,000, so you can burr it. He's like, well, that's a really simple way to put it. I didn't run those numbers. Like, get on it, buddy. So that's the first thing he did. And then I said, now, if it's not going to pan out, if you leave 10, 20 grand in the deal, that's probably not the worst thing. But like you just said, I was like, what is the cash on cash return of putting that $75,000 into a new property versus building this out? And he was like, I might be buying 2 properties with you tomorrow. I'm like, hey, do what you do, Bubba. But like, you have to figure out, where can my asset be most, or it takes time and effort and smart decisions to save money, right? And if you've done that, you don't want to deploy it into something kind of reckless or like something that won't get you maximum return. You want the best shot at the best return. So my job is to help kind of like go through those tough questions and figure that out, just like you did. You nailed that, by the way. I don't ever hear anybody talk about that besides you and me. So thank you, Paige. You show me how smart you are. I love it.
No, because I would love a deck out on the back. Like, that would be amazing. But then I'm also like, well, I could grow a real estate portfolio. Like, that sounds probably better. And then when we have just an excess of cash, maybe that's when we do the deck, right? Because I don't know how much more that's going to increase our rental numbers on it or the appreciation on it.
Totally.
And also, it's like, if you could please get off Facebook trying to get advice on this stuff, because people be asking the craziest questions in groups, and I'm always like, I need 50 other questions to be answered before I can even answer this one, right? Because your goals are going to be so different than somebody else's. Like, are you looking to get out of your job? You got a W-2 job and you don't want to be there anymore. You need cash flow. So how I'm going to finance it and where you're going to invest and what you're going to do, that's a different question than, say, like somebody like me. I'm like, I just kind of need it to pay the payment. And even if it doesn't, that's fine with me because I just like the appreciation gain. That's a different market. Like, there's like so many different questions instead of just going to a Facebook group and then should I invest in blah, blah, blah.
It's multifaceted. And sometimes I will literally respond, hey, based on all I have here, my general answer is this. Because it's all you can do. Like, you want to get people a response, but without like understanding that. I had one of my members go, hey, I think I want to quit my job, coach. Like, you think I'm ready? And I go, that's not for me to answer, but I can tell you whether I think it's you're too early or maybe like closer to being on time, but only you and your wife should be having that conversation. I'll give you an idea. I can tell, I almost always tell people to slow quit. If you think you want to quit, like, start just pulling back till you get fired. And at least you can get some benefits if you need them.
Because most people don't do well under stress. This is like when I have clients and they're like trying to weigh financing options. I'm like, how do you perform under stress and what kind of reserves you have? Because that's going to determine a lot of it. And so there are plenty of times we'll do flips and I will gap fund. I could do the whole thing, but I might even gap fund the deposit, which is like having somebody else basically. So you guys, gap fund is like that, what I would normally come in with, but having somebody else finance it. Cause then I'm going to weigh, how much is that costing me? Did it cost me an extra $5,000? Okay. Is my sanity worth an extra $5,000? Like, what's in the bank? What's that stress level? And I know I perform a little bit better when I don't feel that stress. I also know I have clients who like they perform real well under stress. I have a client, I don't know if you have to do this, but I have to do this, is like, I have to be mindful of my risk tolerance and not put that on my client. Because I have a client
Yes.
of mine who he risky. Like, I'm like, I want to throw up when I work with you, by the way, because you do things where I'm like, mm, I
Oh,
wouldn't
geez.
do it. Like that
That's funny.
scares
That's funny.
me. But that he's been so successful because he can shoulder risk and stress like nobody's business. And so I would be like holding him back and hindering him from some of the success he's experienced if I put my tolerance on him. So being able to hold that space for him as an advisor and just let me lay it out for you and then you make your decision. But yeah, we all have different risk tolerance when it comes to real estate investing. Oh yeah, yeah.
It's funny you say that. I had a partner, and he was so much more risky than I was. And we bought a few properties together and it was great. And he pushed me. He really pushed me. And there's things I'm really glad I did with, but I had to start saying no a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
And there came a point this last year where I think we finally figured out what our maximum point of risk was. And we're like, okay, no,
Yeah,
no, no,
yeah,
I'm done. Like, it was the closest I had been to feeling overextended in a long time. And I was like,
yeah.
but it was also because I was like, I'm gonna max out my risk right now. Why? Because my 6 month my baby was finally about to arrive. I was like, after she's here, I can't do these things. So this is
Yeah,
my last run, and I pushed the heck out of everything, and it was great. I learned a ton. I won some, I lost some, and
yeah,
I learned that I was like, going that fast is not okay for me,
yeah.
and it wasn't the properties that I bought that were wrong. It was my confidence in my contractors that was wrong. I never thought my contractors that had been with me for 5 to 7 years would choose this single year at the same 6 month stint to just start sucking.
Mm.
And they one doubled, one tripled our initial timeline for the rehab, which that holding cost, as we were kind of
Like
implying.
that's what kills you is the holding
Yeah.
cost.
Oh yeah. Totally. So that was my point where this wasn't necessarily a client, but this was a partner. And because I've seen like that person kept going, they've had some really tough days, and they had some oh crap moments, like worse
Yeah,
than I could have ever been involved. But that's why I said no. I was like, this is
yeah.
too much for me. But now I bring every loss or person's pain that I've had in my decade of experience with all my agents and all my clients and my partners, and I go, how do I make sure nobody's getting their junk kicked in today?
Yeah, yeah,
Or at least how do I make sure I've said it so that they're making the call on their own at that point?
yeah. No, those people are great to have in your life because they'll expand your belief
Yeah.
of what's possible. Like had Stacy Duvall, she's out of Kentucky. She was on last week. And when
I
we were
know that name.
talking, yeah,
Yeah.
she was like, I just started investing in 2019, I want to say. 46 properties since
What?
2018. Yeah. And I was like, wow. So
That's incredible.
yeah, the older we get, you start to look at like where you are. And this was my moment yesterday, right? The older you get, you start to look at where am I at in my life? What is on paper? And I don't know. I'm just gonna blanket this statement. I think for a lot of us, we look at it and we're like, we're not nearly as far as we want to be, or we thought we'd be. And then, going back, and I was like, I got to remember Stacy's story because she started investing 4 years ago and she's at 40 plus properties. And so having somebody to do that, it was like, okay, well, if Stacy can do it, I can do it too. I'm probably not going to be able to do it in California, but that's a whole nother
Totally. Totally.
conversation. But that is possible. And then what she's doing, she's like, now I'm liquidating a part of my portfolio so that I can move to a bigger market. And so just
What?
like, yeah, yeah, yeah. She's like, so now I could 1031 a handful of these, move into, I want to get a beachfront. But and I was like, holy shit, you're gonna buy like $1 million beachfront, blah, 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 blah. But you're leveraging the portfolio you built over the past 4 years to do that. And it was like when you start, it's like, oh God, this is like the thing that everybody gets a bug. Once you start to understand how real estate investing builds and like what can happen over the next 4 or 5 years, that gets real exciting, right? That gets real exciting. I know, like when I look at the equity in our properties, I'm like, I could have never saved that. Never could have saved the equity we have gained in properties over the
I know what
past
you mean.
handful, like, I don't know.
And let's just say this, you absolutely undervalue how much equity and tax savings will be created. You
100.
always undervalue it. You because you think it's just, and they talk about this, and these two words sound pretty good. But once you actually start seeing it work for you, and that's actually my last segue on the Stacy thing and what you just said. Man, I love talking to you. This is the best. So
I know you've been going for like an hour. Like, shit,
I swear,
the
trust me.
longest one.
When there's fire, it just let it run. But it's funny, Stacy, if she's got 46, we're nearly the same size portfolio at that point. But it's crazy. What's not crazy? It's very different from what I would do. Right now, I'm planning to sell a couple of my like properties that are like, they're doing okay, but they're not making the money they used to. And I'm going to size up into larger like properties I think have, more higher cash flow potential and also higher appreciation, because I want super properties. Frankly, I want a property that will monopolize an area. I want something because I think that will create longevity. And that's part of my play and how I invest and what I recommend to people. But like, I wouldn't sell 46. And maybe that's just a synopsis, like a quick
No,
summary.
she just has to sell a handful. She's not going to sell off the whole thing.
Okay. I was like,
No.
Unless you think economic doom is pending or looming, like then maybe I'd do a full. But I think I would sell your losers or your ones that aren't doing so as well as they used to. Get rid of those, then kind of reposition, then kind of just, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm at 51. I was talking to Natalie Palmer and I was telling her like, that's kind of what I'm doing. She's like, don't you want to stay at 51? No, 51, it's such a cool number. I was like, I do. And I don't want to lose that number in a way, but at the same time, you got to understand that's that many sets of utilities you're paying too. And it's a lot of bookkeeping.
Yeah.
We pay more in bookkeeping than I want to. And we're about to up our bookkeeping even more this year, because it's been hard to like discern this one versus that one with all the same the same company for electric and gas. And you have to go into the actual portal to actually figure out which one you paid and which bill is assessed to which. Because on your bank statement, it's just like DTE, DTE. Which one is it? I don't know.
Yeah. No, I hear you. We're not going to talk about bookkeeping because it's
the worst part about scale.
Yeah. I told my accountant yesterday, I was like, can you send me my 2023 P&L? Because I was having that like, how much did I make? How much is in the bank moment where you're like, what happened? And so I was like, send me my P&L. And I look at it and it was like trying to figure out what was what. It was like a big line item. And I was like, what did I spend like $3,000 on? Like, what is this company? I don't even know. It ended up being water mitigation because I had a leak, but it was under some random like something investments. And I was like, what is that? That's what they built it out from. And I'm like Googling, I'm calling the number. I'm like trying to like skip trace the address. Like,
I know.
What is this?
I know.
It's like Surf Pro. I was like, oh yeah, okay.
Like, okay. Seems legit.
All right, we're gonna wrap up because we've been here forever. I love the fact that you said the thing people miss out on is like the appreciation and the taxes. Like a lot of times all we're looking at is like cash flow, and you're like, well, it doesn't cover the payment on long term, which I always suggest if you're going to buy short term, know that long term number, know the midterm number, so you know what your exits are. If you like buy something short term, what if something happens, city regulations, they're like, we're not doing short term anymore, you guys are all what is your you got to cover that bottom line. What are your exits? What are your things that you can do if something were to change? But it's not always about cash flow. In fact, that's usually like the least amount of money you make sometimes is in the cash flow. It's like tax write-offs, depreciation, like we've made more in appreciation and depreciation and tax stuff than we have made in cash flow. And so if that's all you're focusing on, you're missing the boat.
San Diego is a perfect example. I know people that will buy, even if it's making $100 a month cash flow, which is pretty much not anything, right? But they know it's going to appreciate 50 grand a year, and they are still going to get a tax write-off of $30,000 to $60,000 per year. So that combined thing is $80,000 of value to their actual P&L. Well, not P&L, their returns by the end of the year, right? Well, okay, sorry, appreciation won't show up on there, but
Yeah.
once it's actually capitalized on, that's when you would experience that. But that's huge. That's it's and to the point of where's your money in your bank account. Like that's the one reason I love throwing money back into a deal. Whenever my bank accounts get too big, I'm like, this is uncomfortable, and I get lazy too. I get lazy.
Uh-huh.
So I know some people think I'm crazy for this, but like I never like to have too much money in the bank because I feel so much sharper when it's like I'm like
Do or
run.
die.
I feel like, oh, I gotta make it work, and I'm like, but I just get so sharp, and I just like that's like a fighter mentality. Like just
Uh-huh.
you put me in the oven, I'm gonna cook, man. I'm ready to go. Like it's gonna come out better. But when I don't feel the pressure, I don't feel as excited about things, and I do work better in chaos, and I am talking to a therapist about that.
Oh my
But
God, we are gonna wrap with that. I love that because I'm gonna use that mindset too of when I have that, where is it on paper? And when, it's really about getting more money into real estate, the more money that we can get into real
yeah,
estate, the better. So I love that. Thank you so much for being here. This was a ton of fun.
thank
I
you.
learned so much. I hope you guys learned a lot
Likewise.
too. Go ahead and you
Cheers.
guys can continue to put it in the chat box. Matt or I will come back and answer them. I'm also going to put in the feed. You guys can work with Matt if you're interested in real estate. You can also coach with him. They have amazing, amazing coaching and property management as well as furniture line, all of the things. Where can people catch you? Why don't you tell them where they can find you?
You can find me on all the major socials: YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. If you go to my link in bio, we do have a chance for you to get added to our email buyer list. So we send out every week our top picks for Michigan. If you're interested, you go, hey, that those numbers look good on that property you sent in this township. You just say, hey, can we book a call? There's actually a book call link within there. We can talk about it, or you just send an email and say, hey, like, can we jump on a call today? I don't want to miss out. And for those that are looking for coaching, you can also get acclimated there. There's a free mini course. I could do like a little 3-video mini course kind of talking about the benefits of scale and how I have used STRs, staying focused on the right exit strategies, just like you were hitting on, and also using burrs and flips to supplement that. Like my job is to create really successful entrepreneurs in real estate. That's my job. Some of my members actually become agents or mortgage brokers too. So they start to see that there's so many ways to make multiple 6 figures in real estate if you're around the right mentality. Just like with you, I'm sure they're like, hey, Paige, I want to go bust my tail and make some money like you. Like, come talk to Paige, right? Same thing with us. If you want to really learn how to make money and just be in that ecosystem where you're no longer like, should I do it? Or like, if you're a bigger pockets junkie, I'm not knocking bigger pockets. A lot of us start there, but there comes a point where you just got to take action, which is kind of how we started, right? Like you got to start saying, how do I make this real now? It's February. What do I want to be doing in March? Like I want to be in action steps, right? If you need somebody to kind of lay out those cones where you tell you kick this one in this order and that order, that we can do that. Happy to help.
Oh, love it. I love it. All right, guys. Thanks so much for joining us today a little bit earlier than normal. So thank you
Sorry
for
about
being,
that.
yeah, no worries. Thank you for being accommodating. We will get this up over on YouTube and TikTok and in shorts and eventually over on podcasts. So make sure when we announce that you guys go and follow us. And Matthew, thank you so much for being here. You are an incredible guest. I'm so grateful. We're going to be back here next week, Wednesday at noon. We're going to go to a new location, learn why you need an investor, why people are traveling there so that you guys can build your real estate dreams. So with that, hope you guys have a great day.